Hello, welcome back to Subbuteo Tabletop Football, where in this episode we're going to host the Subbuteo annual general meeting. That's right, a AGM has come all the way to Subbuteo Stadium, and the reason I'm doing this is because I've got a few things to chat about the channel. And I don't really want to put them into the match videos because they end up being a little bit too long and you hear me whittering on. I might as well put all the whittering on into this one video, and then you can choose as the viewer whether to watch it or not to. So, shall we crack on with that whilst I have a beer? Let's do it. So, hello, yes, and welcome back to Subbuteo and the Subbuteo AGM, for which I have written an itinerary. So we're going to go through a few things here, and as previously mentioned there at the start of the video, it's just to really cut down the time that I'm yammering on before the match videos, because I do find doing this, God knows why it's ended up like this, but there seems to be a sort of backlog of things I sort of need to tell you about. So, before we go anywhere else, let's have a beer. Now, I've got a few beers down here, and normally I do tell you about the beers I'm drinking, but there's a bit of a tail to these ones. So, these beers, and I just want to qualify now and clarify, this is not an advert for them. I'm a paying customer of everything you've seen on this channel up to date. So this is not an advert for them all. But these are beers from and it's certainly not a paid promotion either. These are beers from a brewery called Wild Child, which I believe is up in Leeds or somewhere in that part of the world. I can't see. Anyway, the point is, I was going to get these for the St. George's Day episode match that I was doing of the Lagoa tournament. And then the idea was that because they were from that part of the world, Leeds were playing, it sort of tie it in, and I could talk about that as well. Now, the reason I mentioned that there's a bit of a tail between them is because I felt a bit, it's not like I've done anything wrong, but I ordered some beers, and in good faith, the brewery was going to send them down to me. I got a mixed box, and I was really looking forward to getting hold of them. And the brewery were very, very much let down, as was I as the customer, by the delivery partner that was going to move these beers from the brewery to my home. And they were let down in such a way that, well, I'll tell you what happened. Basically, I'm not going to name the company because I don't think they should get mentioned, but they're a very well-known delivery company, and they were basically said that my package was going to be delayed by a day and then 2 days, and then I just got a hunch they weren't going to turn up because it was meant to be like quite a 48-hour delivery or something like that. And I thought, oh, here we go, because I've had problems with them before. And I messaged the brewery were really good about it, and they said, look, if you haven't heard back by the Monday, I think at the time when I messaged them, it was like the Thursday or the Friday, and they said, let us know and we'll just send you some more and, you know, we'll cover it. And what I liked about that is they had really good communication about it. So straight away, I messaged them, and within 2 hours, I'd got that reassurance back that they were going to send me new ones. Now, as it happens, the delivery company still kept fobbing me off. Now, let's say it, they were lying about things. And eventually we got to a point where they sent me a sort of email saying that the beer had been delivered, but it had been delivered to, and the name they put in was the word destroyed. So it had been delivered to destroyed. Anyway, so I screenshotted everything, I sent it to the brewery, and straight away they sorted that out for me. And within, I think it was the very next day, they must have changed the delivery. So the very next day, I got the crate of beer here. Now, I wouldn't normally tell you about that stuff, but the delivery company particularly irritated me. And I just thought it was worth a mention that Wild Child were really good with their communication in sorting it out. And they made it as easy as possible for me to get the products that I had actually bought. So somewhere in the world, a crate of this beer has been destroyed by a delivery company, aka someone's opened it and had it. I mean, that's what I think. That's why I'm not going to name them, because that way I can say what I want, really, can I? So I reckon they basically half-inched it and had it to themselves. And then the poor old brewery's missing a crate of beer. And I got my beer, so I got what I paid for. And, it's just, I don't know, when you buy things, like I say, this is no fault of the brewery, but when you buy things, you just expect the delivery people to do their job. And I find so often, I don't know if it's a thing around here or what, but so often they just don't do their job, and it shouldn't be that difficult to get stuff delivered to your house in this day and age. Anyway, so after that was all sorted out, I did say I'd give a shout out to the brewery. I think the lady I was dealing with was, I think she was called Christine. So a big shout out to Wild Child, and thank you for sorting out all the problems I had with the beer. And the reason I got these beers is because, as you know, I do like a stout, and they do a lot of interesting stouts. So this one's called Excessive Behaviour. It's a salted caramel stout. This one is Glutinous Maximus. It's a sticky toffee milk stout. Here we've got something different. So it's a pale, what's that? 1000th brew limited edition DDH pale called Millennium Force. But the bulk of the delivery I had were different types of stouts, and I would have had more to show you, but I've had about 8 of them, so not today, I should point out. So I'm going to drink one of these now, and I haven't got a glass as well, so you're going to have to excuse me, and I'm drinking it out of a can. So that's the Wild Child story. Big shout out to Wild Child. And although this isn't a paid promotion whatsoever at all, and they don't sponsor anything, I would say really pleased with their beer and their customer service, so check them out. All right, anyway, so that's that. Right, what's the next thing on the agenda? So reasons for delay on Subbuteo to date. So as previously mentioned in the last video, I feel a bit blocked up. A nice mouthful of stout to sort out. Lovely. As previously mentioned in the last video, some of the content's getting a bit thin on the ground. It's getting further and further apart. Now, I know there is a bit of a sort of, the season's finished, and we'll get to the football season in a minute. In fact, I'm going to take my hat off, I think, while I chat about this. But what I've been doing at the minute, and I'll be quite open about this, is, if you remember last year, I was mentioning about doing a patio. That sort of goes around the house, so it's taken a bit of a while. I did my back in last sort of August, September, so that put me back. That meant the patio ran into the winter, so I was struggling through the winter to find times where I had the time, the money and the weather to get the patio done. Thankfully, before the start of spring, I did manage to get that part of it done. And then I had to move on to something else, which we're doing at our house at home. And that is a fence that I'm building. So that's taken up my time at the minute. Now, you may be thinking, well, why are you taking your time up doing all these things? And this does lead on to something that I'm going to chat about later, which is to do with going to football. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Well, the bottom line is, because you probably picked up by now, the whole point of Subbuteo was that I wanted to show people that you could get into the hobby, or in fact any hobby, without buying all the gear with no idea, sort of thing. So you don't have to spend hundreds of pounds, as long as you're prepared to give things a go yourself. And there's certainly plenty of you which have spoken to me over the time that I've done this and said, you know what, I'm going to build my stadium, and I've been sort of influenced by watching you do yours. And that's all I ever wanted, I guess. I just wanted people to give it a go, and some people have built some amazing things, and I really like that. It really makes it worthwhile me doing this. And I'll be honest here, often when you see stadiums, Subbuteo stadiums or tabletop football stadiums that other people have built, it's almost surpassed what I can do anyway. So it's nice to see that people have done that. But the whole point of this was to show that you can build it. You don't have to just spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because that links into the reason why I spend a lot of my time doing DIY around house, is that me and my wife are not particularly, I suppose, I don't know, we're not as bad as we were years ago, but let's just say we've got a very average wage incoming to our lives. So if we want something done, I've got to do it myself. That's the bottom line. I don't mind that. I always say that paying people to do things for you is a luxury of the rich. When you're not rich, you don't have that luxury. So you've got to get your hands dirty occasionally. So that's why a lot of my time is soaked up, certainly during good weather, soaked up doing things that I'm doing around the house. And at the minute, I'm building this quite extensive fence that we've been trying to get sorted for a couple of years. And I'll tell you the exact figures of this, because we were chatting about this just earlier on. So we got quoted for fences down the side of our house, down the side of the alleyway up the side of our house, and at the back of our house. And the quote, in fact, the quote just for not the back bit was, I think the first one we had was £4,600. And that was for metal fencing. Anyway, then we got a friend down here to quote the same, and he quoted in a composite fencing, and he gave us another quote for a wooden fencing, and they were cheaper, but they were still in the thousands of pounds. And so in the end, I just said to Mrs. Subbuteo, Kerry, I just said, I'll build it myself. I've built fences before, I know how to do it, and I reckon I can do it with a budget of £1,000. Well, to date, I've done the bit down the side apart from the door, which in total we used a bit of reclaimed free to collector timber for that. I think that cost me in total something like 150 quid, but obviously my labour. And then the bit down the side, although I have budgeted for it all to go to 1,000, I reckon by the time it's finished, it's probably going to cost 500 quid. So obviously that's a lot more affordable than the thousands of pounds, but it does mean that I've got to invest my time in it, which means I've got less time for doing hobbies. And as you know, if you watch this channel for a while, Subbuteo, as much as I enjoy it, it's not my main hobby. My main hobby's the woodland. That takes an inordinate amount of time as well. So that's why I haven't been here. So that explains that, okay? So next onto the agenda. Let's get onto the elephant in the room, which I'm sure you've wondered why I haven't mentioned. And I have got it lower down on the agenda. Bristol Rovers. So the Gas were relegated. Now, I can't say that was a surprise, because certainly the last half, well, the first half of the season wasn't great. The last half of the season just seemed to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was really a long time before the end. A lot of people, me included, kind of had it in the head we were going to get relegated anyway, so it wasn't a big surprise. Sort of softens the blow a bit, but still not great. But also, I think there's a little bit, certainly with me as well, there's a little bit of a thing of, we kind of deserve to be in Division 4. I mean, we were appalling. And I don't really hate the idea, because it would be nice to be able to go to football and actually see us have half a chance of winning some matches. So, I'll be honest with you, I don't hate the idea of getting relegated. Not that we've got any choice in the matter, we've been relegated. But I don't know, it's just the way it is. So Rovers have been relegated, and we've got a whole new exciting season in League Two / Division 4. If you're watching from overseas and you hear me interchange those terms, that's because they're basically the same thing. So the UK used to have Divisions 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you had what was known as non-league below. These days, you've got Premiership, Championship, League 1, which is the old Division 3, and League 2, which is the old Division 4. And Bristol Rovers have just been relegated from League 1 to League 2. So we're in the bottom tier of what's known as the league. And below that, you've got non-league. So you've got what used to be called the conference, so now it's National League. And then below that, you have National League North and South, I think, and then it splits further on. So yeah, Rovers back in Division 4, League 2. And that's just the way it is. So we just got to get on with that. Now, that was all a bit dire and everyone was a bit upset until the other day. And I should say, our old head coach, Inigo Calderon, had a lot of time for him. I think, personally, he was made out to be a bit of a scapegoat. He didn't have a great result, but, I mean, we won't get into the politics of that, but he had a bad run, a lot of bad luck, very little success, and he's left with a bit of class as well, so he wasn't bitter about it. He wrote a very nice statement when he left, but the point is, when he left, it made way for us needing a new head coach / manager. Now, I would rather we have a manager than a head coach, but it looks like we're getting a new head coach in, and that head coach is no less than Mr. Darryl Clark. Now, if you don't know Bristol Rovers at all, or Darryl Clark used to be our manager. He was our manager, and we got relegated, and then he brought us up. We got relegated non-league, and he brought us up from non-league into Division 4, League 2, and then up to League 1 as well. So, I mean, people critique him will say he took us down, but that wasn't his fault. It's never the fault of a new manager coming in at the end of the season if you get relegated. So, you know, I don't know where people's heads are with that, but he did get us promoted twice. Now, he's back now. And I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, you could say it's a bit of a risk for him, because either he's going to be a hero or he's going to be, you know, if it all goes badly for him, it's not going to be great. But it's hard to imagine how it could be any worse than last season. So it's really, I think most people are relatively happy that he's back. So that's that. So all of a sudden, the fact that we're in Division 4 isn't quite as grey and murky as it used to be. And now it feels like we've got a bit of club and fan cohesion going on with Mr. Darryl Clark being the conduit in between that we can all channel ourselves into. So I'm quite looking forward to the season coming up now. Okay, next on the agenda, shall we get into some actual Subbuteo stuff? So, at the moment, we've got going on, sorry, let me have a swig of beer. We've got going on the Lagoa tournament. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, it's the LGOAA tournament. As usual, that's a load of old nonsense. That stands for the Let's Go on an Adventure tournament. And the idea of that one is that I've run a sort of mini tournament. I basically started with all the teams that I have available for me, eliminated them, so I had 4 teams left through a bit of a sort of random sort of lottery and whatnot. And then the 4 teams, 2 each, play each other in a knockout round and end up with 2 teams that go into the final. And then the winner of that, I'm going to go and actually physically visit the ground. That's the idea. And I wanted to do that for quite a while. I was thinking of that all through Subbuteo League 2024. I'm thinking, oh, when can I fit it in? When can I fit it in? And then finally got round to it. And I guess the risk with doing something like that is, you know, I suppose in my mind, I'm thinking, well, there's lots of teams I want to go visit, some I don't want to go visit. Um, and it ended up, none of the teams that I want to go visit ended up. Not that I've got an issue with either of the teams left, because what we've got left is Everton and Real Madrid. And in their way, both of those teams are quite interesting. So I'm more happy than unhappy with what we've ended up, but it could have gone really quite badly. But we've ended up with Everton and Real Madrid. So that's the bottom line that. So it means that sometime, whoever comes on top out of that, I'm going to have to go and visit them. That's what I said I'd do. So that's what we're going to do. And then I did invite anyone that watches a Subbuteo to come along to that as well. Now, I don't know who's going to win yet. If you've never watched this before, I don't rig anything. The ball falls where it falls, and I take the shots. And if I get them in, that's how the goals come about. And if I don't get them in, they don't score. So there's nothing rigged at all. So I've got no idea who's going to win. But at some point, we're going to go to some of them. Now, if you're interested in coming along to that, me and my missus will be there. And anyone that watches this can come along. I'm going to sort it out through the Subbuteo Facebook group, because I guess people don't want to be bandying all over YouTube when they're away or whatnot. So if you're interested in joining that, then get onto Facebook, even if it's a one-use account. Join the Subbuteo Facebook group, because there's only about 20 odd people in it anyway. It's quite an intimate group. And then the details will be sorted through that, probably in some sort of private chat group or anything like that. And then when we know whether we're going to Everton or we're going to Real Madrid, we'll have to sort out a date. We'll have to check the fixtures. The first thing we'll have to do is find out if we get tickets, and then book the holiday around that, whether it's in Liverpool or Madrid. I literally know nothing about Spain. I've never been to mainland Spain, so if it ends up there, that's going to be a bit of an adventure. I mean, I've barely been to Liverpool, to be honest with you. I think I did go to Liverpool once when I was younger. But all these things that I'm doing are sort of things that, you know, I'm going to be 52 this year, and a lot of my younger self really didn't do a lot. I didn't really go anywhere. So this channel has, to some degree, it's pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit. And that's why I've done some of these sort of Euro trips recently. Some of them, I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them, like I think it was 2023, we did the Euro tour where I filmed a few things. That's because me and my wife were going on holiday anyway, so we went on a cruise for our wedding anniversary, and it just so happens it was in Northern Europe. We went to a few places and football clubs, filmed it, and then I used it on the channel. So a lot of the times when I do things like that, it's because I'm going there anyway. But a couple of times it's been because I've chosen to go there. But we'll get onto that later on, because there's something I want to talk to you about that. Now, so Lagoa tournament, the final match of that will probably be done sometime in the next week. But the actual attendance at the match, and that's what I was trying to get at, rambling on, will be much later in the year, probably around about October, November, something like that, because that'll give us time to see the fixture lists, plan which is the best game, and then book all and pay for all the holidays. Anyway, so that's that. So Subbuteo League 2025, that's next on the agenda. So that's, if you remember, my concern with last year was that it was running on a bit because I was busy doing bits and pieces. I'm going to keep roughly the same format as last time for that. So there'll be 10 teams in it, so that's 45 matches. But I do want to start it pretty much as soon as the Lagoa tournament's finished. So we'll do all the intro videos for that towards, if I can, I always say these dates and they always end up moving on. If I can, towards the end of May, and then we can start it proper in June, and then get sort of the first few matches out of the way, and then we can crack on with that. So that's Subbuteo League 2025. The next thing I wanted to mention is, and yes, I haven't forgot, and I have been chatting with one particular Subbuteo viewer. So Rich Creed has reminded me, but I'll say again, I haven't forgotten. Dogwood Flick Cooperative. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about there, over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I think, I said, wouldn't it be good if we created within the Subbuteo community a fictional team? Now, I have done that before. I've got Spirit of Subbuteo, which, but I made that myself. And I got a few other sort of fictional teams. We've got the Ratings team, which obviously aren't real. Ratings, we're all Ratings them. And a few other bits and pieces. Alan Porter sent the Subbuteo team. So we've got fictional teams. But this one was meant to be a community one. Everyone had a hand in. So we had a lot of votes chatting on the Facebook group about the name, about the badge, about the colours. And we eventually got a sort of theme. So we've got a theme for... even the name was like randomly selected words which you all voted on, and we ended up with Dogwood Flick Cooperative after a lot of conversation. And I know those are random words that don't really mean anything, but just kind of started to stick. So that's what the team's called, Dogwood Flick Cooperative, DFCFC effectively, or Dogwood for short. We've got team colours. I did a AI badge because we were chatting about what we wanted on the badge. Put that into AI. Eventually ended up with a badge. And I did say I was going to get either a shirt made up, an actual football shirt, or get a team painted. I'll probably get the team painted, I think, first. I don't know. But all these things cost money. So basically we've just got to wait. All I want to confirm about that is it is in hand. It is going to happen. We are going to have the team. And once I've created either the shirt, I don't know, should I get a shirt first? Once I've created a shirt, I think from that we can move on from that. And then it really does open a door to like lots of people getting a copy of the same Subbuteo team to play with. Yeah, so there's not much more I can tell you about that other than it is going to get done. I haven't forgotten about it. I don't forget about the things. Sometimes they just take a long time. So stick with it. Dogwood is going to be here eventually. Right, so that's all on the main list, apart from a little bit to do with any other business. Let's get into that now. Right, so any other business? Quick one that wasn't on the agenda, but I am going to mention, is that I did talk about doing a bit of stadium development, and because I've been busy doing other things, I haven't really got round to it. But I am going to get Bowes Corner down here sorted. Got a little Irish flag I've got to put up somewhere for that. And I am going to, still got in my mind a few changes that I want to do to the existing stands. So that's going to happen over summer into autumn, I think, because it's always a good way to add content to the channel without clogging it up with loads of matches. So that's going to be happening as well. But the other thing that I wanted to chat about is, first off, an apology to actual Rich Creed. We've already mentioned him. Now, Rich, message to you. I was looking through my emails the other day, and I don't know why this happened, because normally when you drop me an email, it comes right through to me. But you sent me an email back in April, and I was looking in my junk email folders, and it was in there. So I only read it yesterday. Bear in mind, it's like mid-May now. Is it mid-May? What's the date? Like 10th of May or something like that? 9th? No, it's the 8th of May today. So yeah, apologies that I didn't answer that one, but it was in my junk folder. Anyway, so what that email about was Rich was asking me, what's the rough sort of costing to these Euro travel bits that I've done recently. So we've got, for instance, going to the Netherlands, going to Dublin, excuse me, a couple of other things like that. And those are the sorts of things I want to add more to in the channel. because it breaks it up a little bit, so it makes it more interesting for me to do. I quite enjoy doing them videos. I mean, they're not the best football visiting videos in the world, but you know, it just breaks up the matches a little bit, creates a bit of interest on the channel. Now, in regards to costs, as mentioned already in this AGM, I don't have barrel loads of money available to me, so, and costings do change quite a lot. So all I can say to that is, when I go to things, I usually either tie it in with something that I'm doing already, or, I mean, can I tell you this? I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you something. I don't usually tell you things that I'm going to do in advance. But sometime soon, I'm going back over to Dublin to watch the Bows. So how do I sort of manage the finances on that? Well, if you remember, I went over and did a video earlier in the year, and it was where I went and watched Bows in Dublin. And it was called something like 2 matches, 1 day, 1 result, or something like that. That's a very interesting sort of turn in the path for me, because I was doing something which I was calling extreme day tripping, which I've never really done before. So if you haven't seen that video, go and watch it. It's one of the early ones. Basically what I did is I went to watch Rovers on a Saturday here in Bristol, and then on the Sunday got up in the morning, went up to Lowellsgate, that's Bristol International Airport if you're not familiar. I flew over to Dublin, and Bohemian FC were playing Shamrock Rovers. Playing Shamrock Rovers, and in the Aviva Stadium for the first match of the Irish season, which starts in February. And I went and watched that, and then I was in Dublin for about 10 hours, and then I flew back to Bristol, and then on Monday was working at home basically, so did a little bit of the video before I started work, and then cracked on with my normal working week. And what's the cost with that? So I did mention a few costs with that. Basically flying over to somewhere like Dublin, and it's a bit similar to when I flew over to the Netherlands. I went to Amsterdam. Both those times you can get flights there pretty affordable as long as you do it in advance before loads of other people start going. So how it works is, if a date for flying becomes very, very popular, you notice that the flying companies start bumping their prices up because they know everyone wants to go. So you've got to get in early. So the upcoming Bows trip that I've got in a few weeks, I got tickets to fly to Dublin for $14.99. That's right, 14. So basically 15 quid, 15 quid, to fly to Dublin. Now that makes it very affordable. Coming back's a little bit more expensive, but not that much. And it was the same when I went to the Netherlands. So I flew to Amsterdam, and I think the flight was a bit more expensive, but it was something like 28 quid or something like that. It wasn't a lot of money. So basically you've just got to plan ahead. That's how you do it. If you get in there early and plan ahead, you can get these quite cheap plane tickets. And what I've done, I was going to show you my phone then, but I'm talking into it. I download onto my phone both the apps for what's it called, Aer Lingus and Ryanair, and that makes it a lot easier to compare prices rather than messing around on the computer all the time. What I do say to my missus a lot is that if you are going to go on something, when you see an affordable price on a flight, you really want to get it there and then, because the more hits it gets, the more presumably the more the algorithm in the computers that they use thinks that flight's popular, and the price will go up. I mean, you can actually see the price going up every time you look at it. So I'd say if you see a reasonable price for a flight to go somewhere, just get it. If it looks cheap, get it. That's the bottom line, because you know, if you're losing out, If you change your plans and you lose out on a flight that costs you 15 or 20 quid, you know, it's not the end of the world. But if you leave it too late, that exact same flight could be, and I've had to do this because we got ourselves a bit stuck, could be like as much as say £180. Sometimes I've seen it more than that, more than £200 just to go to Dublin. So get it early, and when you see it cheap, get it. That's the bottom line. Now, in regards to hotels, that's a bit more of a, there's no cheap hotels when you go to Dublin. You just got to shop around. But what me and my missus did find is a place over there, which is a hostel. Now, bear with me. I'm not staying in a hostel room, me. But it's a hostel, but some hostels do private rooms. So it's just like a hotel room, but they are very, very basic and sparse. You know, don't expect that it's going to be a room of luxury. It's not. But they tend to be more affordable. So me and my missus have been staying in a place in Dublin the last couple of times we've been over there, a place called Clink y La. Again, not paid promotion, just telling you about it. And that seems to be, even that's going to be, I don't know, prices do fluctuate a lot, but certainly when you go to Dublin. But I mean, the bottom line, I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I think if you can find a room in Dublin for anywhere around £150 a night, that's as cheap as you're going to get it, because Dublin's expensive to stay. It's cheap in many other ways, and I do find this with other places. I've found this in the Netherlands as well. These places, when you go there, they're cheap to travel around because they have vastly superior public transport systems than we have. The trams, trains, buses are always on time, and you can usually get like a day card. Like certainly when I go to, I did the same when I was in Amsterdam, but when I go to Dublin, I get a Leap card. So a Leap card for one day, I think it's something like €8, and you can get on pretty much any public transport within the Greater Dublin area. Just get on as many times as you want, and that's, you know, you think that, what's that, €8, sort of like £6 or something. It cost me in Bristol £5, get a return into town, and that's it, just one return in. So, you know, always use that as well. So use a travel card, so that helps, brings the cost down. And then, you know, those two things alone, your travel, if you can keep that as cheap as possible, and your flight, keep that as cheap as possible, which is just all to do with a bit of planning, really. It means you've got more money to spend on the most expensive thing, which is your hotel stay. Yeah, and it was just when I went to, because when I went to the Netherlands, I actually didn't stay in Amsterdam. I stayed in Utrecht, which I just want to say is a beautiful city. If you ever get a chance to go to Utrecht. I much prefer Utrecht to Amsterdam. Amsterdam, I found, certainly central Amsterdam, I was only there for about 3 hours, so it's perhaps a bit unfair, but certainly central Amsterdam, I found it a bit, I don't know, just seemed a bit, I'm sure there's a lot of other things to see, and I need to go back for a full holiday one day, but when you're just nipping in for a few hours, the very centre bit, I found a little bit grubby, to be honest. Whereas if you went to Utrecht, I could have walked around Utrecht all day long. It was absolutely beautiful. So yeah, well recommend that. But the hotel in Utrecht, even that was the expensive bit as well. So that was about £200 for one night. So that was quite expensive. But I had to go there for something else, which was a ratings gig basically. So yeah, I mean, that's all I can tell you. I can't really give you any definite prices on anything outside of travel because they tend to vary. So the flights will go up the more people that look at them. So get them when you see them cheap. The travel cards are generally a fixed price. So utilize them. You know, don't ever get into the trap of thinking, oh, I'll just use a taxi a couple of times, it'll be cheaper. Because it won't. Get a travel card, that's always going to be cheaper. And then, yeah, I suppose the other thing is avoid tourist areas as well, because they tend to be more expensive. So when we go to Dublin, we tend to avoid the Temple Bar area because it's, well, if you go into the Temple Bar pub, I can't remember how much it is a pint. It's basically about a tenner a pint. That's the bottom line. Whereas if you go in North Dublin, where it's a bit more normal, a bit more working class, you can get a pint for, you know, almost a third of that price. Yeah, so that's that. Stay out of the tourist areas. And I think if you've got any more questions about that, anyone else or Rich in particular, put them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. But I mean, prices really are variable, and it depends when you travel, really, and really if you leave it to the last minute or you're planning it a lot. And certainly when we get round to doing either going to Liverpool or going to Madrid. I mean, is Real Madrid even in Madrid? That might sound like a stupid question, but I don't know. If we go there, we're going to have to plan it in advance so that we can get all these things lined up so that they don't cost the earth. All right. Now I think that's enough wittering on for the Subbuteo 2025 AGM. I hope some of that was of use in an explanatory sense for you all. I'm going to finish this beer and go back in over to the house to see the missus because she's on her own at the minute. And then sometime soon we're going to find out whether we're travelling to Liverpool or Spain. Terrifying stuff. But until next time, up the gas!